June 25th, 2006. Police raid 54 Morden Street in Jeepy Town, looking for an armed robbery gang. They find an ambush. Four officers die in what would become known as the Jeepy Town massacre. The murders spark a tide of grief and rage. And that rage finds a voice in then Deputy Minister of Safety and Security, Susan Shabangu.
Criminals who are challenging police, as it was indicated, who are pointing guns at police, we are saying police must not be apologetic. They must shoot them. They must shoot them.
Those words soon caught on.
Yes, shoot the bastards. Hard not to crack incorrigible criminals.
Don't shoot any party that doesn't shoot you. But whoever shoots you must understand what does that mean.
It's 2008, and in parts of KwaZulu-Natal, crime is out of control. Dozens of police officers have died at the hands of criminals. With the tough talk coming from politicians higher up, the police are eager to fight back. And in KwaZulu-Natal, that's just what happened. Between 2008 and 2011, 527 people would die at the hands of police in this province alone. One unit would be at the heart of these killings. The Durban Organised Crime Unit stationed at Kato Manor was tasked with catching KZN's most dangerous criminals. Like the four men who robbed a jewelry store in Durban's Pavilion Mall and then gunned down the policemen who tried to stop them. Like the gang who robbed the Berea Quick Spa, terrorizing customers and hitting a fear-stricken cashier who struggled to open her cash register. Like the hijackers who followed an elderly woman after she picked up cash from the bank and then beat her to the ground before taking her money. The Durban Organised Crime Unit was a close-knit group of career police officers. They were tough, heavily armed cops who appeared to be committed to the police force and each other. To survive in this elite unit meant long nights tracking down dangerous criminals. High-speed car chases and shootouts were common. Each man looked out for the other. They hunted criminals together. They cracked cases together. They bribed and shared beers together. And sometimes they died together. The Durban Organised Crime Unit has been credited with the province's significant drop in crime levels. But the Independent Police Investigative Directorate believes the unit's successes may have come at a terrible human cost. While unit officers claimed they'd killed dozens of hardened criminals who tried to kill them, IPID says these shootings were in fact carefully planned murders. March 31st, 2010. 15-year-old Kwazi Ndlovu watches a soccer game on the couch. The slightly built teenager falls asleep. And in the early hours of the morning, members of the Kato Manor unit storm into his family's home. His parents woke to the sound of their door being kicked in, and then a gunshot. They had no idea what had happened to their son, and police offered no answers, instead bombarding them with questions about an escaped prisoner named Tilili.
basuka phi wathi basuka eGoli basukela ukudlala eGoli bona bafuna uThilili ngizomkhipha uThilili ngathi neThilili angimazi.
Ndlovu was then forced out of his home by 2 officers and pushed into a car.
Bahambela bangibuza la uthena ubani lo behleli obelele dining room. Ngithi mina lalithi ubani olele dining room, ngithi mina it's my son. Lithi your son? Ngithi ya. Lithi lithule lithwale zonke lekhanda kanje.
When Kwazi's desperate mother asked to see her son, she says police told her they were questioning the boy. The teenager who dreamed of being a rapper and spent hours drawing in his room was dead.
Adlulundele ngenkani iwindi kunewindi elifile lapha abesana fika phenyikethini mephenyikethini ngimzothi ingane sebedubulile sebeyiphathisa isibhamu yabo qhuma isililo ke manje ukuthi ingane vele ngoba kanti kathi kufanele kufonelwa nje ama paramedics futhi vele bebazi ingane bayilimazile akekho umuntu okade attend.
We could find no evidence that Kwazi Ndlovu was involved in any criminal activity. His headmaster and fellow pupils say police claims that he had a gun and was linked to a prison gang are hard to believe.
Never had a sense that he was guilty of anything. The immediate assumption by us as staff members was that this was a case of mistaken identity. You know, one doesn't underestimate the difficult circumstances under which the SAPS works. But where a mistake has been made, it should be acknowledged. I don't think there's a need for a cover-up.
Kwazi's close school friend agrees, but he won't show his face on camera because he's terrified of the police.
It is clear to us that their assumption was wrong. They just have to man up and stand and confess that they were wrong.
The Kato Manor unit's officers never did admit they'd made a mistake. They now stand accused of murdering the young man while he slept and planting a gun to falsely portray him as a criminal.
Siyabesaba nje ngokuphelele siyabesaba ukuthi kumina kubuye kube khona ukuthi vese mina kuyafana ukuthi bangibulala ngesikhathi bebulala le ngane.
The Ndlovu family lives in fear of the Cato Manor unit. But thousands of South Africans have rallied in support of the group, who they regard as heroes.
I wasn't carrying a handbag because I knew I'd lose it. But they still
Meet
decided
Denise
that,
Killian.
we're going to take this opportunity.
1 year after Kwazi was killed in his family home, she was brutally assaulted and gang raped. She'd been walking home from watching a rugby game when she was attacked. Her faith in the police was so low, she believed her rapists would never be caught.
All I was told was, you know what, you didn't see them, it was dark.
You can't identify them. It'll never go to court.
She then hired a private investigator who found her suspected rapists in less than a day. He handed the case over to the Kato Manor unit, and it was taken over by Officer Johnny Smith.
He was there every step of the way. Every time I had a question, I'd just SMS him and he would phone back immediately.
But that's what happens because it's like...
The officer was more than just a caring cop. He was a hero in Killian's eyes. It was during the trial of one of her accused rapists that Smith, like most of his unit, was suspended because of the murder investigation into the Kato Manor officers.
Johnny still came to court. He still kept getting hold of me on his own personal phone, you know, to just guide me through this.
Killian's rapist was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. She says she is prepared to go public with what happened to her to support the unit she credits with ensuring that conviction.
The unit has been there. It's almost like a second family, if I could say it. It does hurt. It really is still painful. But they do need people to stand up for them.
Less than 2 hours away from Killian's home, the Ngcobo family live in a tiny home in Umlazi. And for them, the Kato Manor cops are anything but heroes. Tokuzwa Ngcobo agreed to tell his story, but doesn't want to be identified because he fears reprisals from the police. He claims the unit's officers gunned down his sons and nephew as they lay sleeping in this room. The officers claim the 3 men were murder suspects who opened fire on them first, but Ngcobo insists his sons and nephew would have handed themselves over if police had given them the chance.
Mase efikile ongcono makuvaliwe kwakufuneka akhulume nge-speak out ukuthi samaphoyisa sicela niphume nini ke lemaphoyiseni abavanga bakwenza lokho njengamaphoyisa futhi ababambanga ngisho yedwa ukuthi bambopheke kuze akhulume ukuthi bekwenzekani bavele babulala nje yonke into ilele lokho kubuhlungu kakhulu kumina.
You must squeeze the space for criminals until there is no oxygen.
Ngcobo blames former National Police Commissioner Bheki Cele and his shoot-to-kill rhetoric for the deaths of his sons and nephew.
That the people of South Africa they sleep peacefully.
Ubheki Cele uyena ebewumphathi wamaphoyisa efake ivangeli lentshumayelo ukuthi abantu ababulala. Amaphoyisa ababulala abantu.
But for some, it really doesn't matter. If police say they got the right guy, many people believe them. Supporters of the Kato Manor unit argue they killed dangerous criminals who threatened their lives. But the Independent Police Investigative Directorate has its doubts and believes some killed may have been innocent.
For instance, where you have an allegation that somebody shot, and then you have a firearm that appears there at the scene. When you examine the firearm, there's no way that it would have shot.
Officers from the Kato Manor unit now face numerous charges, with as many as 50 suspicious shootings under investigation. One shooting was key to igniting the criminal probe into the Kato Manor unit. September 2011. The family of ANC branch chairman Nginisane Gwala grieve his killing at the hands of the Kato Manor unit. They'd claimed, as in so many other cases, that Gwala was wanted in connection with the killing of a policeman and had opened fire on them after his arrest. But suddenly the politicians didn't buy that explanation. Shoot to kill was now a political problem. The man who once said this,
"If that is shoot to kill, well, so be it,"
had now changed his tune.
I had asked specifically the then National Commissioner and the Provincial Commissioner to look into this matter, because of a particular case which happened outside of Mpangeni.
The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal started raising concerns too.
We then got worried when Mr. Kwala was killed, the manner in which he was killed. The ANC reported that he was in a room, he had no problem, and he was just shot and killed.
So why would the unit's members kill people who posed no threat to them?
Some of the people who were killed were indeed involved in some crime. And it could be probably the policemen decided to take the law into their own hands.
E-News has spoken to several of the unit's members, all of whom have declined to go on camera. They, however, say they will be exonerated when they go on trial, and they continue to insist that in all instances where members of the unit shot and killed people, those people were criminal suspects who were shooting at police.
Despite the serious charges these officers face, you'll still find them in court, testifying in the cases they previously investigated. Even though they're on bail, they're still here, giving evidence supporting the prosecution as though nothing had changed. What is hard to understand about this unit is their loyalty and dedication. The contradiction is stark. On the one hand, they appear to be committed to the police force and justice. And on the other, they are accused of the most serious of crimes. The question South Africans must ask is, can we afford to have cops fight crime at any cost? Many of us cheer when a bad guy is put away for life. But what if innocent people are framed and killed to give the impression of justice? Karyn Maughan, Durban.